Hello everyone. Today I'm gonna make a short but informative video, and I felt nostalgic about an old creepypasta that took over the internet like fire. Became king of creepypastas for a short time before dying off as any other trend. So I decided to make a video about it, and as known famously, the Slender Man. Anyone and their mother would probably heard about this entity, especially around 2009-2013. But let's not beat around the bush and explain where the Slender Man originally came from or what it is. So let's go. In June the 8th of 2009. It was a paranormal pictures from where people would contest for who creates a creepiest Photoshop picture. And it was launched in something called Awful. Yes, that is the actual name. Usually most of those who participated, of course, posted crappy generic ghost layer pictures that look ass, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. But on June 10th, a user by the name Eric Constant, sorry if I butchered that name, posted two photographs of a mysterious creature in the background of kids playing in the playground. And those two pictures have an edgy caption, if you want to call them that, of course. Let's read the first one. We didn't want to go, and didn't want to kill him, but his persistent silence and outstretched arms horrified and confronted us at the same time. 1983, a photographer unknown, presumed dead. And the other says, one of the two recovered photographs from the Sterling City Library blaze, notable for being taken on the day which 14 children vanished, and for what is referred to as the Slender Man. Deformity is cited as film defects by the officials. Fire at the library occurred 1 week later. The actual photograph confiscated as evidence. 1986. Photographer Mary Thomas, missing since June 13th, 1986. Some say the origins of the Slender Man takes place back to a German folklore as known as the Great Man, or the Tall Man, or the Tall Boogeyman, whatever works I guess, that was seen back as the 16th century Germany, especially since the original creator of Slender Man was a German. As well as the entity Slender Man had the tentacles thingies on its back. It also became very famous for its character. As you may expect, Slender Man blew up crazy and spread like wildfire, especially into 4chan and the paranormal forms that was found since all the way back to June 24th, 2009. And outside of 4chan, he is known to these sites as on screen as well. But let's move on to the fan creations of Slender content that goes from games to movies to found footage. So let's head to those things right now. So following the Slender Man explosion of popularity, let's start with the first one ever. There was a series called Marble Hornets, created by Troy Wager and directed by Joseph Dillig, 10 days exactly after the original Slender Man post. The series features a writer and director as well as other characters that will be found on the videos. The series featured 3 seasons and over 70 entries that they call for each episode. These episodes are short, especially the early ones, but later they extend to be longer, and the series ran from 2009 to 2014. I'm gonna sum up the first season with wiki, so it starts with the plot saying, the series follows J. Marek, Troy Wager, a young man who attempts to find out what happened during the filming of Marble Hornets, an unfinished student film, held by Jay's friends, Alex Carley, Joseph Dillig. 3 years before, Alex abruptly ended the project after only 3 months of production. Before cutting contact with Jay, Alex gave him the tapes containing raw footage from the film and told Jay to never ever talk about it with him again. After a year of going down, there was a spin-off movie made in 2015 titled Always Watching, Marble Hornet story that got in critical reception but was forgotten as the main footage series was. I'm gonna link the channel of Marble Hornets for you to watch the rest of the series. And as for the games themselves, that really shaped out Slender Man himself, that if you were in 2012 and entered YouTube, you would get 50 videos recommended to you about people screaming playing the original Slender Man. Which was true. I mean, I was one of those people. And speaking of the original Slender Man, the title was called Slender, but later renamed Slender the 8 Beaches. It was basically a smash hit of Unity and released in 2012, June. for a beta Microsoft Windows and OS X by Persig Productions. As I earlier covered, it contains Slenderman himself, and in the game, you are spawned in the forest with nothing but your flashlight and camera. You are tasked to collect pages for whatever reason, and you do that in the game. And it contains different locations, let's say weird bathroom area, shower, I don't know what they call it, but there's also a tunnel and a truck, and as you collect the pages, the soundtrack thumping begins to play, and you notice something following you from behind, and it's Slenderman. What a surprise. The more pages you collect, the more Slenderman begins to get closer to you and harder to avoid. And if you look at him, then your screen is gonna go staticky. And if you look at him for too long, you'll die. And you get the iconic jump scare with the iconic beauty by reaction that was very much copied all over the place. But what happens when you collect all the pages? You die. But the pages themselves aren't empty white exam papers, but actually contain drawings that is actually different from other pages that would not be copy and pasted if it was made like from Billionaire Company. But which is quite interesting because most people wouldn't even read them in the first place, they would just pick them up. But later in the updates, they added a main menu for you to start, because the old version, or the Slender one, launches you straight into the game if you open it without consent. As well as the new version contains an extra mode like Daylight, and a $20 mode that also has the pros track that was later removed in the game for copyright reasons. And pretty much that's it for the Slender the 8 pages if you're talking about main content. There's more extras, but it's more useless and not necessary for the story or other Slenderman creepypastas. Let's move on to the other game that was also a smash hit. Before we do that, there's also other fan rip-offs that were basically Slenderman, but different locations. There's one hospital, there's one in an asylum, and a freaking mansion. It's basically it was a rip-off that most people played after finishing the original one, and also a circus, as well as circus. That's pretty crazy, not gonna lie. There's more games that are still made to this day, but they're mostly parodies and not exactly fun to play. And they're just basically the same thing. That's why most of them died, despite like 50,000 of them. But let's get to the main second game that was also developed by the same studios of the original one, alongside other developers that were also very decent. Another hit title, if you want to call it that, is Slender the Arrival, that was developed by Blue Isle Studios alongside Persig Productions, that were the original developers of Slender the 8 Pages, and as a sequel that follows the original game. And about the plot, it follows two childhood friends, Lauren and Kate, and it turns out Kate was the character you were playing in the original Slender, which was mind-blowing when I first knew about that. But in this game, your car crashed and you gotta follow your friend, which is basically your childhood best friend, and you arrive at your friend's house in the middle of the woods, but turns out she's missing, so you try to find her. In the game, you find several different locations, but here's the main criticism of this game, is that the gameplay was too samey and boring and short, which costed the Slenderman IP a huge hit. I'm gonna skip for the two endings, but spoilers alert, the first ending is that Lauren narrowly escapes her attacker in the hallways of the radio tower of the building and looks for a key to unlock the door. Her flashlight batteries die as soon as she goes through the door, only to find she has reached a dead end, containing a burnt body, a fire, and a camera with a recording of two panicked people. Shortly after listening, the corridor goes dark, and Charlie runs towards Lauren, accompanied by flashing images of Charlie before backing out. For who Charlie is? There's that missing kid in the beginning of the game when you encounter the posters of him. This is the kid that basically catches you later, and it's fucking terrifying. An additional level takes place after Kate fled into the woods, where she collected the 8 pages while being followed by Slenderman. After finding all the pages, Slenderman catches her, claiming what she has plans for her. If the player has beaten the game once before, a hardcore difficulty option will unlock, which is like the first game but more difficult. One difference is that Lauren must find gas canisters in order to power the generators in the mine for the game updates, Upon completion of the game again, Lauren will attempt to escape by jumping from a high area in which her camera dies after she does so. After an update to the game, the ending is no longer possible to get. The game now ends with Lauren wakes in the Slender Man basement of the farmhouse from earlier, with Charlie blocking the way out. After finding 2 documents, Charlie disappears. Lauren hears crying upstairs and fights Kate, but Kate turns into a chaser and attacks her. Lauren's camera turns back on temporarily to show someone's leg, most likely Lauren's, being dragged away by someone unseen. And that's about it for the cover of the 2 games. There's a tragedy happened in real life where a group of girls went to the forest and stabbed their friends with a knife, which she was 12. She is still traumatized about it to this day. So for a movie to be made, 2018 Slenderman, that indirectly disrespected the victim and crapped on her, I don't recommend watching it. It sucks really badly, and I watched it and it does not. Don't watch it. But that's my advice. Just don't watch it. The movie really sucks badly. Well, that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it, despite this being a bit filler than what it should have been. I was gonna cover another topic, but it was way more long and complicated, so I was gonna keep it for the next week. And so I'll see you there. And like the video and subscribe if you enjoyed this one too, and my other videos. See ya.